Smoke! Well, this is my first post-intervention video, so we'll try to play around with Smoke. Now, Smoke's biggest problem is actually Shaper, which has a whole load of problems, mainly that you're not Wizard. So you can't really contest asset spam decks, and especially not decks like CTM, which I'm playing against. However, I am trying to show up that weakness, and you can probably see that from the way I build my deck. I have Temujin contracts, and I have Career Fair to get it out speedily, and this means I'm able to immediately float up to 12 credits, allowing me to evade a hard-hitting news that I know is in my opponent's hand because I access my opponent's HQ. So I want more money here, so having seen the Resistor, which I also access from HQ, I went for the SMC, knowing that I can tutor the Blackstone, and I fetched a Global Initiative, Global Food, while getting the Temujin money off. And at this point, I'm still not ready to trash the Sensi Actors Union yet. Now, it is definitely arguable that what I should have done was to play Employee Strike and then trash the Sensi Union on clicks 3 and 4, and that might have been right. I just felt that that would leave me very vulnerable to hard-hitting news had I gone that way, because I'll be very close to the 8 credit mark. In retrospect, maybe that was the right play because I allowed my opponent fire Sensi twice, and that's quite a huge deal. That really accelerates my opponent's game. So here I'm just going to check more remotes and definitely trash the Bankers group that he drew with Sensi. So this is the problem when you leave Sensi out for even one turn. They draw into more of their cards, more of their assets, and you are forced to spend more time later catching up. This is why Wizard is so good against CTM. And even with a pretty good start, I had Temujin and Employee Strike, both my opening hand, which are hard counters to, not hard, maybe soft counters to CTM, shall we say. I still wasn't able to defend very well. My Temujin has now run dry. Notice that I still actually managed to get most of the money out of Temujin, even though I was forced to break Resistor. The fact that I'm using smoke credits to smoke through the Resistor means that I'm still getting 4 credits per run on HQ. Problem is, the money is only finite, and they're all gone now, while my opponent draws through the deck ever so quicker with Jackson Howard plus the Sensi on what looks like to be a Mumbai Virtual Tour. And 2 more assets hit the table, or agendas, I don't know. Employee Strike is out, but my economy is running dry. I have run out of money, the daily cost has dropped, but that's all the money I have. And this is where I really wish I had Magnum Opus. With Magnum Opus, I can hit it twice and run a remote, run 2 remotes even. This looks very bad for me, not gonna lie. I'm not really sure what to do here. R&D is kind of iced up, so I can't really run R&D even with an RNDI installed. The clone chip is not going to be very useful. It's there in case of the Rig Destruction matchup. I will be able to get my programs back if I have clone chip installed. But yeah, this doesn't look good for me at all. So I'm really trying to evaluate what's my next line of play here. I told myself, surely I cannot let my opponent get another couple turns off Jackson and Sensi Actors Union. I have to trash them somehow. But at the same time, I don't want to go broke trashing them. I'm on 7 credits. If I trash the Sensi, I'll be down to 5 credits. And I access the Virtual Tour, leaving me down to 0. That is a very bad place to be in. That leaves me open to hard-hitting news. I can't have that. On the same token, if I install anything to then trash the Sensi, I'll leave myself in hard-hitting news range next turn. And there's nothing really much that I want to install that will take me below 7 credits. There's no point installing a clone chip. As I said, it's not relevant this matchup. I could install the RNDI, but that would leave me with no money to get my decoder out if the R&D ice is a code gate. So no matter which way I look at it, I'm pretty screwed. So here's what I do. I'm going to install the SMC here. This will not take me down below 7 credits, which I want, because I want to kill the Sensi this turn. However, I'm going to crack the SMC immediately for Houdini. Now I know that I don't really need the Sentry Breaker this matchup, which is in my hand anyway. All I need is a decoder and a fractor. So I'm getting my last breaker out, and then I'll go to trash the Sensi. By getting a breaker out, I reduce my credits so that I don't have to be forced to trash Virtual Tour. But all I got instead was a product placement. My opponent gained 2 credits, and then I run R&D to attempt to force the Ice Res. I saw a Turnpike. Well, okay, so I'm now tagged for real. The Turnpike tagged me, and I lost a credit from it. More importantly, I am in all sorts of trouble here. My opponent ices up R&D, so I can't really run it next turn. Trashes my daily cards, crippling my economy. So at this point, I'm basically resigned to clicking for credits. I have no econ cards in my hand, I don't have any installed, and most of this deck's economy really is in the stealth credits and the resources. Netmerker, Temujin, daily cards, they are all resources. And if I'm tagged, those resources are useless, so I'm basically now forced to fend for myself with all my recurring credits, all one of them. All I have is my identity. And I'm not going to be able to clear tags this game. My opponent smartly plays a hard-hitting use, which basically permanently tags me to hell. So, first thing I do is force the Ice Rest on R&D. Make sure that if it's a toll booth, I don't get toll booth taxed. It is a toll booth. Alright, I'll jack out. Or rather, I'll end the run. And then take a couple of credits before running a Jackson Howard. I must still control my opponent's board state. I cannot let them hyper draw. Otherwise, it will draw them their psychographics, their exchange of information, their breaking news, all the bad stuff, and even the second toll booth. We don't want that. So I need to force the card draw cards out of the table. At this point, I cannot contest the econ. So the bankers will stay, the pair campaign will stay, and my opponent can get the 3-point view. That's fine. 3-point view is fine. Psychographics is now in the bin. It'll be quite a while before my opponent finds the psychographics again to score another agenda. In the meantime, this gives me time to hammer R&D. I'm going to hit R&D, break the toll booth, and take the turnpike tag. Yep. So at this point, I'm basically committed to locking R&D as hard as I can. This is not really the best strategy for me, considering that my opponent will simply get lots of money and continue icing up R&D. This is the conundrum that CTM poses, and this is why it's such a strong deck. But I do manage to steal an Astro, putting me on match point. So this is pretty good for me. Note that exchange of information is not live because my opponent hasn't scored breaking news yet. With my sufficiently aggressive early game, I was very aggressive in hitting HQ, getting the first global food, and then going for R&D with the early R&DI to fetch the breaking news. My opponent was actually not able to score enough agendas to actually threaten me with exchange of information, which is good. This is a very good thing. On the other hand, now I'm resigned to clicking for credits, right? So this toll booth is going to be really expensive. It's 6 credits a pop to get past, and who knows what the outer ice is. It could be an Archangel. So at this point, with only 1 stealth credit, I need to just click for as many credits as I can. And another big problem that you see with this deck is that not only am I forced to click for credits, I'm also forced to click for cards. That's bad. I do want to see more cards. There are sure gambles in my deck, and a Temujin would be pretty nice to diversify my economy sources. And I'm just not drawing to these cards because I cannot afford to spend a click to draw. Every click is much more better spent gaining credits instead to make those R&D runs to see 2 cards at a time and possibly win. So I decided to draw first click and see how that plays out. I did draw into another option, the sure gamble. That was good. I'm going to run and see a Sansan grid and the same product placement. Not going to trash any of them. My opponent can have all the money he wants. I was just checking for the Sensi or the naked breaking news. I draw into Temujin. So far my draws have been pretty good. I've actually been drawing the econ cards that I need to see this game. With economy, that's why I need to be able to contest the toll booth. Smoke is very good at smoking most pieces of ice. The only exception is ice that have encounter effects like toll booth. These really cause a big problem. Needless to say. Stealth credits don't really deal with toll booth very well. To make things worse, my opponent just closed my accounts, so now I am put under double pressure. I need to click for credits to go back up to gamble range, and I need to suppress the Sensi Actors Union at the same time. So do I click for 4 or do I trash the Sensi? What do you think? Think about how you would play this. I know I'm very far behind and it probably doesn't make a difference, but I think the correct answer here is to trash the Sensi. You have to make sure they don't draw the cards, draw the breaking news to EOI, draw the EOI, draw Jackson to draw more cards, draw more agendas to score with the Sansan. Note that the Sansan is well and truly alive now that my opponent has it iced up in that remote. So yes, I do want to stop the card draw, but it is pretty futile. My opponent finds another Jackson Howard. He's been having a very good draw, drawing a lot of political assets to Jacksons, but that's the way it is sometimes. Sometimes, I mean, it's not just with CTM. Any deck can get a good draw. So the best thing you can do is to control the draw by trashing the assets. So nope, I misplayed there. This is a huge misplay. I play Gamble, Temujin, and double Temujin archives. The idea here was to diversify my economy sources so that I can challenge his remotes and his R&D next turn. with 13 credits to my name and the Temujin. However, yep, trash Temujin close accounts. He did find a second close accounts, and that basically ended my game. What I should have done was to play the gamble, trash Jackson, and then move on from there. I got very impatient with the Temujin turn, and that kind of cost me, because now I'm reset, and this is definitely not looking good. So, yeah, so I'll let the game basically play out, and I'll explain some things about Smoke and what I think about this deck. You'll notice that most of the second half of the game was spent clicking for credits, and this is a huge problem. Against CTM, clicking for credits means you're losing. What you really should be doing is hitting Magnum Opus, which is the Shaper economy go-to card because it's immune from tag destruction. Unfortunately, Magnum Opus is completely not in line with Smoke's strategy. As Smoke, you kind of want to play Netmerker, which encourages you to play Cloaks, and Cloaks take up memory. Outside of Opus, there's not really much else in faction that helps you very much with the asset trashing that you need to do. Parisha is quite a dead card in most other matchups because you typically won't have the memory to run it alongside your stealth rig. Remember the cloaks? They are coming back to bite you. Same thing with Hyperdriver. Desperado is a really interesting choice. It is our faction. You are probably going to spend almost all your influence on Desperado and Temujin if you go down that route, but it serves as essentially a bad pup to go with your Netmerker so-called bad pup. These things stack up quite well. It could be that a Desperado Temujin Smoke deck is a way to go. It's the way to go, rather. We'll have to see about that. It is definitely a possibility. I'm not going to underestimate it. Now, I want to also discuss about Shaper card draw because that's why I feel is a big problem this game. The fact that I felt locked out of my deck. The fact that I just didn't have the time to draw cards because I was too busy clicking for credits. Of course, that's more of a problem with my econ engine more than card draw, but it's also important to consider what sort of card draw your Shaper deck should run. Starting from the right and moving to the left, we have Diesel, which should be a 3-off in every Shaper deck. I don't see why you won't play 3 Diesels. Diesel is just so good. You know how good it feels to have Diesel in your opening hand and open that can of on your first click. It is that good. Then you proceed on to Quality Time and Earthrise Hotel, which are kind of tempo hits. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like the tempo hits of these two cards. Quality Time especially is pretty bad because it floods you with cards, forces you to discard some potentially useful cards. So that could be a big problem. Earthrise on the other hand pays out very slowly, a bit too slow against the CTM matchup. During the Worlds testing for our UK group, we found that Earthrise was subpar against CTM. It was good in the slower Glacier matchups like HB, but when it came to CTM, you needed faster burst draw like Inject, and this is where Anarchs shine better than Shapers because they have more quick card draw than Shapers do in the form of Street Peddler, Inject, and I've Had Words. This is why Anarchs are a shoulder above the rest, to be honest. As for Patron and Proco, these are very powerful card draw effects that last for the entire game, assuming they don't get trashed. So they used to be pretty powerful draw engines, especially Professional Contacts used to be a staple in prepaid decks, but now that CTM is a thing, now that tagging is a thing, the usefulness of these two cards have been drastically lowered, and as such you rarely see them in the wild anymore. Professional Contacts especially is way too vulnerable to trashing, and Patron needs some time to set up. You aren't getting any draw on the turn you install it, and on the next turn and thereafter you need to hope that there's an empty server, which won't be the case in other matchups. So even though Patron is really nice for Shaper, I mean Smoke especially because Smoke is typically run based, it actually isn't that good in the current climate. Now Netmerker is an interesting card draw card because it really isn't supposed to be a card draw card, but against CTM, where you're not expecting to spend too many stealth credits on breaking ice because, well, there's not that much ice, Netmerker has the secondary effect of drawing you cards, and this is something that a lot of people overlook, myself included. I think this might make it worth it to run 3 Netmerkers in a 40 card Smoke deck, just to see this early so that you can start drawing cards quickly. I might want to play around with this. So, hope you found this informative when you're building your own Smoke or Shaper deck. Card draw and economy is a very important backbone of any Netrunner deck. So getting it right is pretty crucial in order to build a successful deck. Clearly, my smoke deck has a lot of work to go before it can handle the best of the best in terms of corp decks like CTM. Thanks for watching, happy net running, see you around!